Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Introduction: The Hidden Secret Behind Wealth. Napoleon Hill did not write this book by accident. Think and Grow Rich was born after more than 20 years of research, interviews, and real-life observation of the most successful people of his time. The journey started when Hill met Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in history. Carnegie challenged Hill to discover the true principles behind success and wealth, principles that schools never teach. This book is not about money alone. It is about a way of thinking, a mindset, a philosophy of life. Hill repeatedly reminds us that riches begin in the mind. Before money appears in your hands, it must first appear in your thoughts. Many people read this book looking for shortcuts. But the truth is deeper. The book teaches you how to think, how to desire, how to persist, and how to align your subconscious mind with your goals. Napoleon Hill says, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." This sentence alone summarizes the entire book. In this audiobook-style journey, we will break down the principles of Think and Grow Rich, supported by examples from the book itself and real-life stories, and we will translate them into practical daily actions you can apply immediately. Chapter 1. Desire, the starting point of all achievement. Every achievement starts with desire. Not a weak wish. Not a hope. But a burning desire. Napoleon Hill explains that desire is the first step toward riches. Without desire, nothing moves. Without desire, plans remain empty ideas. Hill tells the story of Edwin C. Barnes, a man with no money, no connections, and no advantages. Barnes did not want to work for Thomas Edison. He wanted to work with him. That distinction changed everything. Barnes traveled to Edison's office with nothing but his desire. He did not look impressive. He did not have experience. But he had one thing stronger than all obstacles: an unshakable decision. Edison did not give Barnes a job immediately. Barnes waited. He stayed. He persisted. Eventually, opportunity appeared in a different form. Barnes seized it. Years later, he became Edison's business partner and earned a fortune. The lesson is simple but powerful. Desire backed by persistence creates opportunity. Real-life example. Look at modern entrepreneurs like Elon Musk. Before Tesla and SpaceX succeeded, Musk invested his entire fortune and slept on factory floors. His desire was not comfort. His desire was achievement. Daily application. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not what sounds good. Not what others expect. What do I want badly enough to sacrifice comfort for it? Write it down clearly. Be specific. A vague desire produces vague results. Chapter 2. Faith. Visualizing and believing in the attainment of desire. Faith is the emotionalization of thought. Hill explains that faith is not blind belief. It is belief strengthened by repetition and visualization. Most people fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack belief in themselves. They accept limitations imposed by society, family, or past failures. Hill emphasizes autosuggestion. What you repeatedly tell yourself shapes your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind controls your habits, emotions, and actions. If you constantly tell yourself that success is impossible, your mind will find ways to prove you right. If you repeatedly affirm your ability to succeed, your mind begins to search for paths, ideas, and opportunities. Example from the book. Hill describes how faith transforms ordinary people into leaders. He observed that successful individuals consistently spoke positively about their goals, even when circumstances were unfavorable. Real-life example. Professional athletes visualize victory before competition. They see themselves winning. Their minds rehearse success before their bodies execute it. Daily application. Create a short affirmation that describes your goal as already achieved. Repeat it daily. Feel it emotionally. See it mentally. Faith grows through repetition. Chapter 3. Autosuggestion. Influencing the subconscious mind. Autosuggestion is the bridge between conscious thought and subconscious action. Your subconscious mind accepts whatever you repeatedly feed it, without judgment. It does not distinguish between truth and falsehood. It simply acts. Hill explains that emotions give power to thoughts. Thoughts without emotion are weak. Thoughts combined with strong feeling penetrate the subconscious mind. Fear, doubt, and anxiety are forms of autosuggestion. They are repeated negative thoughts. Success, confidence, and courage are also forms of autosuggestion. Example from the book. Hill studied individuals who rose from poverty to wealth. They all practiced some form of autosuggestion, whether consciously or unconsciously. Real-life example. Consider someone who grows up hearing "you are smart" repeatedly. They often perform better academically. The belief becomes self-fulfilling. Daily application. Control your internal dialogue. Replace self-criticism with constructive instruction. Speak to yourself as you would speak to someone you care about. Chapter 4. Specialized knowledge. Personal experiences or observations. Napoleon Hill makes a critical distinction. Knowledge alone does not bring riches. General knowledge is everywhere. Specialized knowledge is valuable. Specialized knowledge becomes power only when organized and applied toward a specific goal. Hill himself did not possess great wealth when he began his research. His wealth came from applying knowledge in the form of books, lectures, and consulting. Example from the book. Henry Ford did not have extensive formal education. His success came from surrounding himself with experts and using their specialized knowledge. Real-life example. Modern creators and freelancers build wealth not by knowing everything, but by mastering one valuable skill and applying it consistently. Daily application. Identify one skill that aligns with your goal. Commit to learning it deeply. Apply it immediately instead of waiting for perfection. Chapter 5. Imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything that exists was once imagined. Hill divides imagination into two types: synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Synthetic imagination rearranges existing ideas. Creative imagination connects to deeper intuition and inspiration. Every business, invention, and system began as a mental image. Example from the book. Hill observed that successful leaders relied heavily on imagination. They envisioned outcomes before they existed physically. Real-life example. Steve Jobs imagined devices that did not yet exist. His vision guided teams toward innovation. Daily application. Spend time visualizing your desired outcome. Ask yourself, what would this look like if it already existed? Write ideas without judgment. Chapter 6. Organized planning. The crystallization of desire into action. Desire without action leads nowhere. Hill explains that successful people create plans, test them, adjust them, and persist. Failure is temporary defeat. It is feedback, not final judgment. Example from the book. Hill describes how many great fortunes were built after multiple failures. Persistence separates winners from quitters. Real-life example. Most startups fail initially. Those that succeed adapt instead of quitting. Daily application. Create a simple plan. Act on it immediately. Improve as you go. Chapter 7. Decision, the mastery of procrastination. Successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. Unsuccessful people hesitate, doubt, and seek endless opinions. Indecision is one of the greatest causes of failure. Example from the book. Hill observed that leaders possess decisiveness. They accept responsibility for outcomes. Real-life example. Investors who hesitate often miss opportunities. Daily application. Make small decisions faster. Trust yourself. Accept mistakes as part of growth. Chapter 8. Persistence, the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. Persistence is fueled by desire. Many people quit when results are near. Hill emphasizes that persistence is a state of mind. Example from the book. Hill recounts stories where individuals failed just before success due to lack of persistence. Real-life example. Authors receive many rejections before success. Those who persist eventually succeed. Daily application. When you feel like quitting, pause. Remind yourself why you started. Continue one more step. Closing of Part 1. Think and Grow Rich is not a book you read once. It is a philosophy you live. The principles you learned in this first part form the foundation. Desire, faith, autosuggestion, knowledge, imagination, planning, decision, and persistence work together. In the next part, we will explore the power of the mastermind, the subconscious mind, the brain, and intuition. Remember, riches begin in the mind before they appear in reality. Continuation, the inner forces that shape your destiny. In the first part, we explored the foundation of success: desire, faith, autosuggestion, knowledge, imagination, planning, decision, and persistence. These principles prepare the mind. But preparation alone is not enough. In this part, Napoleon Hill reveals the deeper forces that shape results silently, often without people realizing their influence. These forces operate beneath the surface of conscious thought. They explain why some people succeed even when circumstances are against them, and why others fail despite having talent and opportunity. Chapter 9. The Mastermind, the Driving Force. Napoleon Hill considered the mastermind principle one of the most powerful ideas in the entire book. A mastermind is the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people who work toward a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. Hill discovered through his research that no great fortune was ever created by one person alone. Every successful individual surrounded themselves with others who complemented their strengths. Andrew Carnegie openly admitted that his greatest asset was his ability to organize a group of intelligent men around him. The power of the mastermind does not come from intelligence alone. It comes from harmony. When people work together without jealousy, ego, or conflict, a third force is created. Hill describes it as an invisible energy. Example from the book. Hill observed that Henry Ford built his empire by relying on a team of specialists. Ford did not need to know everything. He needed to know how to use the minds of others. Real-life example. Modern startups succeed through teams. A visionary founder, a technical expert, a marketer, and an operator working together create results no individual could achieve alone. Daily application. Identify people who share your values and goals. Build relationships based on mutual growth. Avoid negative, jealous, or pessimistic individuals. Chapter 10. The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. This chapter is often misunderstood. Sex transmutation refers to the redirection of sexual energy into creative and productive outlets. Hill explains that sexual desire is one of the strongest human drives. When controlled and redirected, it becomes a powerful force for achievement. Hill observed that many of history's greatest leaders and creators were driven by intense energy, which they channeled into work, art, leadership, or innovation. Example from the book. Hill notes that individuals at the peak of creative output often possessed strong emotional intensity. Instead of dissipating it through distraction, they focused it toward purpose. Real-life example. Artists, entrepreneurs, and athletes often describe periods of intense focus where energy feels amplified. This is redirected emotional energy. Daily application. Control impulses instead of suppressing them. Channel emotional energy into creative work. Develop discipline over habits. Chapter 11. The Subconscious Mind, the Connecting Link. The subconscious mind acts as a storage center for thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. It does not reason. It reacts. Whatever dominates your conscious mind eventually enters your subconscious and shapes your behavior. Hill explains that emotions are the language of the subconscious mind. Positive emotions strengthen constructive thoughts. Negative emotions weaken progress. Example from the book. Hill explains that fear, doubt, and worry are forms of negative autosuggestion that poison the subconscious mind. Real-life example. People who constantly worry attract stressful situations. People who focus on solutions attract opportunities. Daily application. Guard your emotional state. Feed your mind with positive input. Avoid environments that reinforce fear. Chapter 12. The Brain, a broadcasting and receiving station for thought. Napoleon Hill describes the brain as both a transmitter and receiver of thought vibrations. Though science at the time could not fully explain it, Hill observed that ideas often appeared suddenly, as if received from an external source. This concept explains intuition, inspiration, and sudden insights. Example from the book. Hill noted that successful individuals trusted their intuitive ideas more than logic alone. Real-life example. Inventors often describe breakthroughs occurring during moments of relaxation, not intense effort. Daily application. Create quiet moments. Reduce noise and distraction. Pay attention to intuitive ideas. Chapter 13. The Sixth Sense, the Door to the Temple of Wisdom. The sixth sense is intuition. Hill explains that this faculty develops naturally through practice of the previous principles. It allows access to wisdom beyond logic. This sense warns, guides, and inspires. Example from the book. Hill himself relied on intuition when making major life decisions after years of studying successful people. Real-life example. Experienced professionals often make correct decisions without consciously knowing why. Daily application. Trust inner guidance when aligned with purpose. Do not ignore repeated intuitive signals. Strengthen it through reflection. Chapter 14. The 6 Ghosts of Fear. Fear is the greatest enemy of success. Hill identifies 6 basic fears. Fear of poverty. Fear of criticism. Fear of ill health. Fear of loss of love. Fear of old age. Fear of death. Most people are controlled by at least one of these fears. Example from the book. Hill observed that fear of criticism prevents people from acting on ideas. Real-life example. Many people avoid starting businesses because of fear of failure and judgment. Daily application. Identify your dominant fear. Question its logic. Replace fear-based thoughts with action. Chapter 15. How to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. Fear is not removed through thinking alone. It is removed through action and discipline. Hill emphasizes the importance of positive mental habits. He advises replacing fear with courage, doubt with faith, and indecision with persistence. Example from the book. Hill describes how successful people deliberately train their minds to reject fear. Real-life example. Public speakers overcome fear by repeated exposure. Daily application. Act despite fear. Build confidence through small wins. Practice mental discipline daily. Closing of Part 2. This part reveals the invisible forces behind success. The mastermind multiplies power. Sex transmutation fuels creativity. The subconscious mind shapes behavior. The brain receives inspiration. The 6th sense guides decisions. Fear blocks progress. In the next part, we will focus on practical transformation, habits, environment, leadership, and how to turn ideas into lasting wealth. Remember, what you think, feel, and associate with determines what you become. Part 3. From Thought to Reality. At this stage of the journey, the principles of Think and Grow Rich begin to move from internal understanding to external results. Napoleon Hill now focuses on habits, environment, leadership, and the subtle daily behaviors that separate those who dream from those who achieve. This part explains why some people start strong but never finish, and why others quietly build wealth over time. Chapter 16. Habit. The invisible architect of destiny. Napoleon Hill makes it clear that habits control life more than intelligence, talent, or opportunity. Your daily habits shape your character. Your character shapes your destiny. Most people live on autopilot. They repeat the same behaviors every day without questioning them. These habits either move them towards success or slowly push them away from it. Hill observed that successful individuals deliberately built habits that supported their goals. They did not rely on motivation alone. They relied on routine. Example from the book. Hill describes how disciplined thinkers consistently applied the principles of faith, persistence, and planning until they became automatic. Real-life example. Warren Buffett reads for several hours every day. This habit compounds knowledge over decades. Daily application. Identify one habit that supports your goal. Practice it daily until it becomes automatic. Eliminate habits that drain energy and focus. Chapter 17. Environment. The silent influence. Your environment shapes your thinking more than you realize. Hill explains that people absorb attitudes, beliefs, and emotions from those around them. This is why association is critical. Negative environments breed fear, doubt, and procrastination. Positive environments reinforce confidence and action. Example from the book. Hill noticed that successful individuals intentionally chose their associations. They avoided gossip, pessimism, and negativity. Real-life example. Entrepreneurs who surround themselves with ambitious peers grow faster than those isolated from motivation. Daily application. Audit your environment. Reduce exposure to negative influences. Increase time with growth-oriented people and content. Chapter 18. Leadership. The power of influence. Leadership is not about authority. It is about influence. Napoleon Hill defines leadership as the ability to inspire cooperation. Great leaders do not force. They attract. Hill identified key traits of successful leaders. Decisiveness. Self-confidence. Initiative. Empathy. Vision. Example from the book. Hill studied business leaders who rose during crises. Their calm decision-making inspired trust. Real-life example. Effective leaders during economic downturns focus on solutions, not blame. Daily application. Practice decisiveness. Communicate clearly. Lead by example. Chapter 19. Self-discipline, the key to freedom. Self-discipline is control over thoughts, emotions, and actions. Hill explains that freedom comes from discipline, not indulgence. Those who cannot control themselves cannot control circumstances. Example from the book. Hill observed that people who mastered self-discipline achieve stability even during uncertainty. Real-life example. Athletes follow strict routines to achieve peak performance. Daily application. Control emotional reactions. Delay gratification. Align actions with long-term goals. Chapter 20. Focus, the power of concentrated effort. Success does not come from scattered effort. Hill emphasizes focused attention. One goal pursued consistently is more powerful than many goals pursued occasionally. Example from the book. Hill explains that many failures result from divided attention and constant switching of objectives. Real-life example. Successful creators focus on one platform and one audience before expanding. Daily application. Choose one primary goal. Eliminate distractions. Commit fully. Chapter 21. Time, the hidden asset. Time is neutral. It rewards preparation and punishes procrastination. Hill explains that opportunity often comes disguised as temporary defeat or delay. Those who prepare in advance recognize opportunity when it appears. Example from the book. Hill observed that many fortunes were built during economic downturns by those who acted while others waited. Real-life example. Investors who prepared during market crashes gained long-term wealth. Daily application. Use time intentionally. Prepare even when results are slow. Act when opportunity appears. Chapter 22. Persistence revisited, the quiet power. Persistence is not loud. It is quiet. It is consistent. Hill revisits persistence to emphasize its long-term effect. Many people quit because they measure progress emotionally instead of objectively. Example from the book. Hill describes individuals who succeeded after years of invisible effort. Real-life example. Authors and musicians often work for years before recognition. Daily application. Track effort, not results. Trust the process. Continue even when progress feels slow. Chapter 23. Failure, the seed of equivalent advantage. Hill introduces one of the most powerful ideas in the book. Every failure contains the seed of an equal or greater benefit. The problem is that most people stop at failure and never search for the seed. Example from the book. Hill explains how business failures led individuals to new paths that eventually created wealth. Real-life example. Many successful companies were founded after previous ventures failed. Daily application. Analyze failure.